Hey, everybody. Welcome to Keeping It Spiritually Simple. I'm your host, Sandra McEllis. And before I introduce our beautiful guest, let me please ask each and every one of you if you just take a quick moment to like, subscribe, share, leave us a comment. And at the end of this recording, if you have a question, please go back and leave us a question. This all helps the algorithms go around so that this video could show up on someone else's social media and they could gain value and benefit from what it is we are about to chit chat about. So today I'm with my beautiful friend, Dr. Autumn Edwards, and she's going to kind of introduce herself a little bit. But first, I think she's got a little something in store for us. So welcome, Dr. Autumn. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for creating the space for us to share. I'm really excited to be with you and those joining us right now, and I'm excited to see what unfolds.
Absolutely. Now, I think we're going to start with a little meditation. So I would just ask that each and every one of you that are listening, that if you are driving or operating heavy machinery, that you wait and listen to this recording later. And if any of you are visual, you are welcome to hop over to YouTube and see this whole show, visually, where you can see Dr. Autumn and also see me. So take it away, Dr. Autumn.
Thank you so much. So this is my practice, my daily ritual, and it is a prayer that was given to me by my guides. And something that's important for me about prayer is that you are an active participant in whatever way feels best for you. So if it's simply by setting an intention or by visualizing the process in the shared moment, please feel free to do so. Otherwise, just be in a place of reception. I ask to merge my love light consciousness with my highest love light consciousness. I invite my highest love light consciousness to fully incorporate into this body, this vessel, this being, so that we may be one continuous stream of unified infinite love light consciousness of Source God Creator. We ask to be brought into perfect harmonious union and perfect harmonious resonance, to merge with the infinite love light consciousness of the Divine Heavenly Mother and the Divine Heavenly Father of Source God Creator. We ask to be brought into perfect harmonious union and perfect harmonious resonance, to merge with the infinite love light consciousness of the Heavenly Christ and all Heavenly Ascendant Light Masters and angelic forms who would like to actively participate in our highest and greatest benefit. We ask you all to be here with us now. Please heal, transform, ascend all energies in, near, and around us, so that only that which is within our highest and greatest benefit be with us now. Please help us to co-create perfect sacred geometry forms and perfect sacred geometry grids of healing crystalline diamond light fields around our shared space and our individual bodies and vessels. Please seal it with the highest vibration of the universe and the infinite love and light of God, so that only that which is within our highest and greatest benefit be with us now. With infinite love, light, and gratitude, we thank you. Aho and amen.
That is amazing. I want everybody to take a nice deep breath on that. Just be with that as you allow your nervous system to come into balance within your body so that you can receive this information that we're going to chit chat about more receptively. And yeah, that was so beautiful and so well said. And there's codes and words, and then there's codes in the vocal cords that deliver those words. And you have such a beautiful residency and delivery. So thank you for that.
Oh gosh, thank you so much thank you for
You're
sharing that.
welcome.
It means a lot to me. So yeah.
I just got teary-eyed too. It's just very heart-centered. And nothing that I ever do on this show or anything else I do is pre-rehearsed. So it's just whatever comes through. And it was just when you were speaking, I was like, wow, listen to that delivery system. Listen to those codes and those words. And you can't make this shit up.
No.
It just, that it comes from a higher source. You feel it. So
Mm-hmm.
thank you for that.
Yeah.
So today I think we wanted to talk about something wild and crazy. So let's get to it.
Yeah, I'm a little bit of everything, I think.
I think
Uh,
we're all mutts of the world.
I
I love
know.
it. I love it.
Yeah, I always say you have to be able to walk both sides of the line. You have to have one foot in the heavens and one foot on the earth in order to be
Mhm.
meaningful and impactful in the world. If you're too far on either side, you're not within your own balanced presence, and it gets a little wonky when that happens.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So, yeah, psychic rebel.
Yeah, it was
And it can mean so many things. So I just want to hear all about this topic.
yeah, it was something that came in spontaneously when I spoke to you for the first time about the concept of sharing this space together, and it was new to me. And that's happening a lot more, I think, for everybody right now in the plane. Like things are just dropping in more readily, and being able to receive that, I think, is beautiful. But it really speaks to my soul. Uh, I've carved my own path. I don't follow any sort of discipline. I don't follow any sort of lineage. And some people might be intrigued by that, and some people might not. And it's just been this dance with the divine in finding a way that is unique to myself. And my hope is that that can be shared with others, that they don't have to follow a recipe or a set script in order to come into their most divine awareness for themselves right here, right now. Um, so it's been an interesting journey that I could probably write a few mini series about, whether it's pain, whether it's suffering, whether it's bliss, whether it's joy, whether it's magic. It's my own. And I think that if that can help people find their own, then that's what matters.
I have to agree with you. And I know this conversation has been coming up a lot lately, and you can read something in a book, or you can hear somebody else talk about their experience. And you could semi feel it or maybe relate to it, but until you actually experience it yourself and walk in that, you don't truly grasp what it all is, right? And everyone's experience, although there might be a lot of similarities, there's a lot of big differences because some of them could be a kerplunk,
Mhm,
down in a really super intercellular level,
mhm.
previous DNA, carried forward. And some of it can be in the upper levels. So it's whatever it means to the individual and based on the life lessons that you've chosen to experience
Mhm.
while you're here. And even those that are thrown at you and you have to learn to troubleshoot, right?
Right.
So I'd love to hear about more about that. And also, when you just mentioned it's something that you came up with when we had our initial chit chat. And that's when two people are on a vibrational cord and
Mhm,
stuff just happens.
mhm,
And it happens in such a way that it's like, oh, that just popped in and that's so relevant. But it happens because you're on the same vibrational cord for the highest good and highest value of all that there is in the now moment. So I'm delighted to hear that this has evolved for you since that psychic rebel just popped into your awareness and is now going to be shared with others to listen.
yeah.
So begin, sister. Let's go.
Oh gosh. Well, I think it's important with the times that we're in, if we want to call it that, is that things are accelerating. And the times of the old are fading away and the times of the new are coming in. And I think that that requires us to step into a new plane of consciousness. And we can use the old as a foundation if we choose to, but we shouldn't sit in fear to be able to release that which was once valuable but no longer serves. And I think the only way to do that is to step into uncharted territory, to branch out onto your own, and to be able to exercise that muscle that we call discernment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So many people are searching for faith, for their connection with God, for their connection with spirit, and they're going they're leaning heavily and putting all this weight onto these teachers and these gurus and these previous ways of being that may no longer be necessary in the new frequencies coming in, may no longer serve in the ways that we are going to be. And some of them may translate, some of them may transcend with us and contribute to it. And I think it's essential for us to not be afraid of our own inner knowing, our own level of awareness of who we are, and be able to step into our own power and not be in fear of violating or insulting or disrespecting something that has been because for something that you need for yourself. And so for me, in my journey, in my path, there's things that have been given to me by my spirit guides that may look similar to what has been, but it's an augmentation or an evolution of what has been. And there can be some pushback and some resistance with that, and I understand it. And it doesn't diminish the new space that we're entering into. There's a lot of what I called maybe dogma or understanding of concepts of the metaphysics and what we can even coin as New Age spirituality that I don't agree with. Not because it doesn't exist and it's not true, but the way it's being applied and the way it's understood is misguided or not being able to be harnessed fully in its potential. And so there can be some friction points between those that have been and those who are becoming. And I think it's really important to go within the self, to embody your greater light, to really nurture and cultivate that discernment for self and step forward with confidence and strength. And yes, you may trip and yes, you may fall, but then you stand up and you learn from that, because that's the human condition. We typically learn by what doesn't work first in order to step into what does work. And so my path has been sort of a solitary path. I haven't had any human-based teachers. All of my teachers have been straight consciousness from divine downloads and my own personal journeys. And it's been an interesting evolution of how I connect, how I bring forward like my resonance and my light for the assistance of others and help them come into their light, their journey, and not be in a place of what has been, but is stepping into now and what is coming. And I think that's really important for us to do moving forward in the timelines that are unfolding before us.
Mhm. And a lot of that can be described as you're in the void, you're in the outskirts, you're in new territory that hasn't been pioneered. There is no footprints to follow, so you've got to create your own. And we're living in a society that's followed what everyone else has done before us, and whether they decide to follow that and then expand out on it, make it different, make it more unique. Most people are still following. They're following some kind of teaching. They're following what other people are saying. And much of it becomes then subconscious autopilot. Some of it becomes just blind leading the blind. But when you're in this awakening state where you're realizing that things in the world are not what you thought they were, and whatever that means to you as an individual in your particular world and your demographics of where you live, there's an awakening occurring. And then it's like, okay, so how do I do things differently, but still maintain with one foot here? Because I have to do the normal routines of the day that is required of me, right, that I'm responsible for my family, for myself, staying in the lane with my car, I don't harm anyone, those kinds of things. So we are in this place of, you know, how do we redefine ourselves and explore when it's so unknown,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
And that's the beauty, because we're creating it.
Mm-hmm.
We're making that new thing. And when you're creating something new, it's important to have like a grasp of what has been. It's kind of like in order to know where you're going, you need to know where you came from to a degree. But then because of the resonance that's being given to us and that's coming through the cosmos for us, I mean, there's a potential to create a whole new world, unlike anything we could have possibly conceived when we come together in that creative force. And I think that that's where the concept of attachment is so valuable, of not being attached to what has been, so much so that it keeps you from going forward. And I've really learned some hard lessons about like non-attachment. Like you cannot, like, the more you're attached, the more you're limited. And you could be in deep reverence for something, and you can be in deep connection with something. But if you're hooked into it in a permanent state, then that doesn't serve at all.
Hmm. And many people are also who were taught that there's only one right way. And
Right.
even though there's multiple ways that have similarities to that one right way, and that's religion, politics, it's a lot of different things. And so you're really taught through the perception of others and who've come before you. And you have to ask yourself, well, is that information truly real? Or was it distorted for control at that particular time? And now it's passed down so many times that it becomes real and cemented into your own life. So we already know that change is not something that is easy, for people because of the way it's attached in the brain. When you say, I want to lose weight, your brain automatically says, you're not losing anything because that's life, right? And so we have to rephrase it. I'd like to slenderize, or I would like to do this, or, you wind up playing all this trickery. But when we're in the world of people wanting to, or in the habit of following one particular line of what is right, we have so many people out here seeking. And
Mhm.
again, it's that follow game. Where else did someone start? And when you were talking, it was really odd because I get things in pictures,
Uh-huh.
and I was being shown like an art class, and everyone has a blank canvas, but they're supposed to paint a vase, right? The
Mhm.
typical art class.
Mhm.
Everyone go ahead and paint the vase, and people will paint it, and some will look similar, some will look a little bit different. And then, but what if you told each of them, paint whatever you choose to paint? And now they're like, okay, what's that? And then I don't want to be the odd person out. So they look at other people's canvases and see where they started. And then next thing you know, everyone's, doing a plant because the person next to them started a plant. Person over there started maybe a tree. So you have this whole theme because people are afraid to be authentic and individual and to truly be the first one out of the gate.
Yeah, absolutely.
There,
And
yeah.
and that's where you get into things like groupthink, or like a mass thought form that can actually be um, detrimental. Absolutely. And I think that then the social pressures come in, and the further you go down into that train, the harder it is to come out of it. Um, but if you can really truly, with faith, step into your own imagination, that's where you're going to get the clarity from God. Because God doesn't speak in language typically. God transmits consciousness, and that's going to be transmitted in however you are able to receive that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can go into a plane of imagination where you're accessing that creative force within you, and in the imaginary plane, anything is possible. There's no limitations, there's infinite potential. When you go uninhibited into that imaginary place for yourself, you're truly accessing the creative force and will within you through God. And that's where you're going to get the clarity. That's where you're going to get the juicy pieces that can then steer you into your authentic path. And the more you do that, the more detailed and the more refined it becomes, and the greater confidence and strength you'll be able to have to pursue that journey for yourself, and have absolute reverence for your own process without the need for external confirmation or validation or approval. It's really just about refining your own essence through your own creative force without any inhibition. And I think the more people can step into that, the greater this world is going to become.
Yeah, and that's very powerfully said. And when you were saying about the language of God, but tell that to a person whose language is words, and
Right.
they've got to read it in the written words that have been previously written.
Mhm.
And but if they were to research those words, if they went back 300 or 400 years before that, that word was different. And
Mhm.
so it changes, right? But there are people that are very, affixed on the word of, this is how the book says do it this way, this is how I do it, because they're carrying that controlled DNA lineage of, if I step out of the lines, I'm going to get persecuted. If I step out of the lines, I'm going to get ridiculed. And I know for me, and I think for you, I'm here to tell you through my own experiences. Yeah, you might get some lumps and bumps, but then that doesn't define who you are as your God innate source constitution. And our creativeness, our wings have been clipped, and
Mhm.
they haven't just been clipped, they've been locked down. And then our
Mhm.
feet have been nailed to the ground, and we've had very little movement, even when we think we're creating movement. But we're also taught that the mind plays trickery. So if all that information comes through, then now we've got to question it, right? Now we've got to get in there and go, well, I'm not that smart. No, that's not a creative thing that came through me. But I think what you're saying and what I know I've experienced is it is. And if you start playing with that information and that energy, more and more will come to you.
Mhm.
And then the rest of this world is going to look very dense and very black and white and, restrictive. And I don't
Yeah.
mean just mentally restrictive. It's restrictive to your breath. It's restrictive to your physical movement. It's restricted to, your creativity, where you want to branch out. And, I just love what you just said there about that. That was so powerful.
Oh, well, thank you. It's just how I perceive truth, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And everyone's going to have a different perception of that truth, which is why the collective is so powerful, right? It brings so many um, elements of the great whole together to create a bigger picture of what is. And the more we can step into our little piece of our truth and our little piece of the perspective of a greater thing, the bigger the picture is going to reveal the infinite of the light and creation to us. And that's how I think we work together as a human race or as a spiritual anomaly of various expressions.
Yeah. And, Spirit said to me many years ago, we're working on uh, eliminating polarity,
Mhm.
right? And I was like, okay. And they're like, not completely, you can't, because where there's daylight, there needs to be darkness, because there needs to be heat, then there needs to be cool, right? There needs to be water and saturation, then there needs to be dryness, so that when the water does come, it can be saturated. So there's always going to be the free thinkers, the polarity in the universe, and so on. But it's going to get dimmed down a lot, so that one side doesn't feel so righteous and the other side feels so wrong-ish, right? And of course,
Yeah.
if you're on the wrong side of the right, then those, past history tells us those are the ones that get the rocks thrown at them and get ousted,
Mhm.
until somebody makes it really big, right? And they make it big, and then they make it more cool,
Yeah.
right? And that's what we're here doing. We're trying to say, step out of that comfort zone, step out of that following, and get into more of a creative flow of trusting the innate side, and flying a little blindly, and unclip your wings, build new wings, and start moving. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. And the way you bring that forward, for me, being a doctor of Chinese medicine, it makes me think of yin and yang, right?
Yes.
And one of the founding principles of yin and yang is that there is a seed of yin within the yang, and there's a seed of um, yang within the yin. I don't know if I said that both right, but like they're interdependent and they turn into one another, right? And the other defines the other. And I think we're getting into a place, what I saw when you spoke was, yes, there's the polarity of the masculine, the feminine, the light, the dark, the dense, the etheric. And we're coming to a place where we can see it all clearly or with greater clarity. It's kind of like if you stand on one end of the spectrum, we're coming to a place where we can see the connection all the way down to the other end of the spectrum and back again. And we're starting to see the relationships and how they feed one another instead of trying to create lines in between them and diminish their value. And something God showed me a long time ago is that darkness serves the light. And darkness only exists because the light allows it to exist.
Mhm.
The light withdraws itself from a space so that darkness can be the percolator of evolution, where new things can arise. And there is the element that the darkness may not be aware of that, because that's the whole purpose of it. It's going into something brand new. It's going into something transformative, and that can be pain and suffering, because pain is a great teacher. Um, and it can be just ignorance, and it can be rest and rejuvenation. There's a spectrum of what darkness can represent. And so, as long as we can embrace the fact that darkness is a servant to the light, I think it's easier to step into a place of perhaps compassion, because, what I think Jesus taught was like, love them for they know not what they do.
Mhm.
And stepping to that place of compassion, like they're just simply unaware. And if we can step into the place of they're unaware, and we can either guide that unconsciousness, or we can step into a place of how can I learn with that, and how can I allow that to come into the light, then I think we can have greater peace with ourselves and with others.
Mhm. Wow. Well said. Well said. I don't, we are told scientifically that we only use a fraction of our brain.
Mhm.
And I think, when you were speaking there, I was going back to like, when a baby's born, they don't have all of their sensories intact, right? They just have feeling and need certain things. And, later hearing, better hearing, smell, taste, those kinds of things. And they get developed as you grow older, right? And some people have a more prominent sensory than another. But our spiritual sensories are what's coming online now. And part of the brain that maybe didn't serve us up till now is now coming online.
Mhm.
And so we could certainly go back and say, oh, well, we used to have all this and somebody else came in and took it all away from us. And then we've lived under slavery and all that. Sure. Yeah. You could go down that road. Or you could just say different sensories are opening up now. And how do I identify them for me so I can learn to have them as a language, so I can learn to translate them with better understanding and learn clarity over time, and maybe use those to help me in my daily routine, right? We talk about the intuitive, we talk about, tuning into that innate voice that most people will shove over to the other side and say, that's not me, right? Although it made sense, but that's not me. I'm afraid to make a choice on that or take action on it. But if we just look at it, that we are becoming more aware and we didn't know before, and that's okay. And that's what I think this whole topic that you began with is, we're becoming more awakened to endless possibilities. We have to self-create, self-generate, take action towards. And there's no action that is wrong. You may take a couple steps this way and go, I don't know. I think I'm supposed to go back that way, right? So it's all about learning your own spiraling of growth within yourself, and be okay with, oh, hit a brick wall over there, need to go over here, won't go that way again. But if I didn't hit that back brick wall, I wouldn't have gone in this direction, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So the brick wall can be a metaphor for multiple different things, depending on how hard you hit that damn wall. And many of us have hit it multiple times. And then we're like, okay, lesson learned, and take the bruises and the bangs. And okay, what strengths can I build from this to get my sense of direction better? And then my God protective services, my inner GPS, will always guide me, because maybe I needed to hit that wall. Maybe I needed to stay there with the hit of the wall, right? So there's no wrong. There's
Yeah.
truly no wrong. I think that's part of the polarity I'm feeling that will dissolve from our language, is good, bad, right, wrong, black, white. It's more like, wow, what a colorful experience that was. Yeah, I'll do some more of that, or I'll tweak it, or I won't do that ever again. And then if someone else is on that journey, if I can help them and they ask for it, I could guide them, but maybe they need to hit that wall too, right?
Yeah,
To make changes.
absolutely. And what it comes to me when you share that great detail is a message that's come to me over and over and over again for the divine is remember who you are. And that remembers who you are is like, remember the light that which you are, that you have always been and you will continue to be. And all of that fumbling is like learning how to be who we are in all phases of being. Like we know how to be divine in heaven. We know how to be, you know, supernova, light workers on the other side of the veil. But how do we bring that here? How do we bring that light and step into our greatness here? And so my sense is like it's all about remembering how to be our true divine self in every aspect of being. And that's what this journey is.
That is what the full awakening is.
Mhm.
Is understanding that you are more, that you have more, you just haven't accessed it. And you can, again, go back in the box and say someone put you in there and then they taped it up and locked you in there and you didn't experience it. But that's what we're here to awaken to, is that
Mhm.
there's so much more perception out there that we haven't even explored,
Yeah.
much less translate into a language that we as an individual understand, so that we can come forth like this in a
Mhm.
platform like this and share it,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And create it,
Mhm.
and allow it to evolve from there, because it's just taking our light and allowing it to expand.
Mhm.
And in that light there's so many more colors than we thought was on the color wheel.
Oh, it's true. Yeah. I mean, light, sound, emotions. I mean, uh,
Yeah,
how
we
do
could go on that one, right?
yeah, I mean, I have crossed over and I came back and the light on the other side is so different. And my experience of coming back and seeing how the light was different took a minute to adjust to, and the emotions took a minute to adjust to. And you're just like, okay, where am I at in space and time? And you're like, I really don't know. Like, and
Mhm.
it's just so it's so fascinating. I think it's really interesting to be able to witness
So
that.
do you feel that in that particular experience, because I'm getting that you've had many experiences, but do you think that particular experience was more of a catalyst of being, that psychic rebel, that uh, I am more devout to my innate, authentic living of self and keeping that peace with there? Because a lot of people think of rebel rousers. They think of, people that come in there and tear up the room because they're anti everything, right? And
Mhm.
that's the negative side of being, a rebel. And then
Mhm.
there's ones that strategically put things together to make change, you
Mhm.
know? And so do you feel that that crossover and coming back, and then after your adjustment period and acclimating, do you think that was a huge catalyst to where you are in this moment?
Um, I wouldn't qualify it as catalyst. I think it just reinforced the journey I was already on.
Okay.
I was given a choice to come back or not, and my my contracts and my agreements had only already been fulfilled,
Mm-hmm.
and so I came back to the planet for others. Um, and I agree that there's different types of rebels. There's the mischievous, right? There's those who are like, I'm making a mess just because I can, and it's more of an outlet for them.
Yes.
And then there's those who are like, I'm going to hold this quiet space that gives a, another reality the opportunity to coexist. And I like to think of like maybe Martin Luther King in that,
Mm-hmm.
where he had the
Mm-hmm.
peaceful resistance, right? And it's, you know, the path of the peaceful warrior. That there's a new way to be. And we're creating that new way of being by demonstrating what's possible. And I feel that in some regard, that's what I'm trying to bring forward, whether it's conscious or unconscious. And it's for the purpose of allowing everyone to fall into their own passage towards that. And whether I help them or not, like, that's not up to me. I can only do what I can do. And I think that's part of the reason why I've had a lot of impact on the people who I do work with on a regular basis, because I'm not attached to the outcome. Like, that's, I can only bring myself forward in the best way that I can. They're going to do with it what they will. And they can continue on a similar path, a different path, a new path. My value, my worth, and what I have to offer isn't contingent upon what happens afterwards. It's already beautiful and perfect in the moment that it's offered.
Mm-hmm.
And being right, being wrong, being useful, being not useful, that's not up to me. It's up to whoever is receiving that in the moment and what they choose to do with it. And that's all I can do, right? And if something comes out of it that I feel isn't representing what I attribute to be my greater being, then I have the opportunity to make adjustments for myself, whether it's internal, whether it's external, and just do the best as I go.
Mm-hmm. Well, the path of the peaceful warrior is very important because there is no attachment to whether they have managed what they came to manage when they came before you, meaning to heal or whatever that agenda is. And you meet it for where it is. And then when it's done, you wash your hands and you go on to the next and hope that that person took with them as much as they could, and then take responsibility and accountability for the rest on their own, you know? So there is only so much you can do.
Yeah. And I love, there's a wise saying that's like, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. You know, it's all the same. You know, it's
Yeah,
just, it's how do you navigate the space, you know, in between. And it's funny because people will say to me like, oh, well, I want to be, you know, in an environment with people that are, you know, spiritual or are in this divine resonance and all this stuff. And I just kind of chuckle at myself. And I'm just like, dude, a houseless person sitting on the corner drinking a beer is a divine experience. Like, there
mhm,
is no such thing as not a divine experience or not a spiritual experience. This entire world is a spiritual experience. And so I'm just like, lean in, have your divine experience, have your spiritual revelry, and don't restrict yourself on what that does or doesn't look like, because it all serves us. But focus your discernment, see where your greater guidance is leading you, and that's gonna let your destiny fulfill itself.
absolutely. Absolutely. And many of us that are on this journey, I'll hear people, I need to find my tribe. I need to find like-minded people. I need to go do that. And I want to look at them, go create it, be it yourself,
Yeah.
and they will come. You'll figure it out.
Yeah.
My big thing has always been, almost all my life, is everyone's always wants to be, I want to be in this group or that group or that group. Can I just go around, visit all the groups? Can I just feed the energy of all the groups? And then I want to go into like nowhere land, like into groups of people, and then I just want to play with all the energy. Some person could be on way on this side of the fence and the other one on this one, and I don't know that at the time, but I just know the group is very mixed, whether
Mhm.
it be 20 people or 500 people. I want to get in there and just walk around with the energies and figure out how to calibrate and adjust and still maintain my harmonious peace, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I find that a lot of fun, teeter-tottering through that.
Yeah.
And we are in this time right now, in this climate, where many are, I've awakened, I need to find more people like me, really.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, but Are you in kindergarten or are you in fourth grade, or where
Right.
are you in this evolutionary wake up? Because you could say that, and then you're going to wind up with somebody that might be awoke for quite some time, and you're not going to understand anything they're saying, and you'll have no compatibility, right? Even though they'll have compassion. So it's you've got to learn it and
Hmm.
be content with it. And I think that's what we mean by such a solo journey, is
Hmm.
because we really truly are navigating a path that we are self-creating, that
Right.
we are putting our own footprints on, not
Right.
somebody else's. And we are learning to hone in into skill and find some sort of mastery so that we can be content and be in a rhythm that our whole body is in um, activation with, to maintain some sort of baseline that we're trying to figure out what is our baseline,
Right. And I think
right?
it's, and that comes back to like how self-aware are you and how are you able to evoke that self-awareness? Because if you're just like in an for lack of a better term, an elementary phase of your personal evolution and stepping into your greater light, you're in a place of self-healing, you're in a place of, greater understanding, you're in a place of like developing skills. So you may not want to go into like the path of like Jesus, where he's stepping into the leper colony or into the space where people are really struggling. You may not have the wherewithal to step into that fully and have the impact that you would like to, at a level that maybe Jesus operate on, but you're on a path towards that. And once you get to a certain level of internal mastery, and skills based upon that internal mastery, then you can step into those planes to be of service, to be an assistant, to be some sort of guide towards your your own revelatory process to assist them. But there is this intermediate phase where it's essential to hone your own being in order to be of service. It's similar to like, put the mask on yourself before the child on the airplane. Very, very similar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and children learn with not do as I say, they do as you do. And
Mhm.
so if you want to have a more of an impact, do as you do, and
Mhm.
you will be mentoring and sharing your light, regardless if anyone is asking you or you've created something to share it with them through class, course, conference, whatever that is. Be content with just learning your dials on your apparatus,
Mhm.
right? And what works for you. It has taken me decades to understand that and be a-okay with my first language is feeling.
Mhm.
Everything is through feeling. And that is why I love being in energy of not just observing, but just being in the presence of energy and then literally allowing it to come through the etheric body. And how does it translate into a language that I understand?
Mhm.
And so then I could look back and see, well, this is why I kind of struggled sometimes in school. This is why, I didn't conform to certain things. So again, being psychic, being a rebel in my own way, but finding my way through the path by learning me.
Mhm.
And then now, and we say that ignorance is wasted on the youth. I wish I could go back a couple decades and know what I know now, because I would have maneuvered so much differently and stronger and created differently. But I am where I am in this moment in time, because my timer was different than someone else's timer to awaken and to apply the awakening to me
Right.
and to be there in that path to do as I do for me. Because I always say, I answer to one. I answer to one. That's it. This and one. And I have to do me.
Right.
Right.
And then that is then in service to the all.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
But there's a lot of people that will awaken and they feel like, oh, I've got to run around, tell everybody this. I've got to run around, share it with everybody. I've got to run around, chicken little, chicken little, chicken little. and you're still bypassing your own healing experience in the oneness of you and the divine.
Yeah.
Because you are the divine. You are a walking, breathing divine. You are the source of all is, and all is the source of you.
Right.
And so, that's not selfish. That's being acts of self to be the best that you can be, so that when you do step out of your doorstep, you still emulate all of that beauty, because you do as you do.
Right. And you take people with you on your journey because they're inspired to, right? They're
Yes.
inspired to follow you. They're inspired to know you. And by that, through that inspiration and through knowing you, they then get to know themselves.
Yeah.
So it's this, I don't know, it's just masterful. I mean, it's brilliant. It's magical. I mean, this world, like when you can finally like see it,
Mm-hmm.
oh my gosh. It's wondrous. And people crack me up. They're like, I'm not coming back to this planet. I'm like, you say that now. But
I love this planet, and I love being here on this planet. No
yep.
matter what is going on around me, I choose to love it. But I want, something else is coming up. People will ask, well, how did you get here, Sandy? Like, how did you get here? And they're bypassing because they want to follow some of the things maybe I did. And
Mhm,
sometimes I'll joke around because my humor is off the charts,
mhm.
insane. And I'll say, well, it started with falling off a roof. So let's go fall off a roof. And then I'm going to show you how I did all this.
Right.
And they're like, what? I go, yeah, we have to go fall off a roof. That's what we have to
Mhm.
do. You okay with that? No. I said, okay, then go find your own path
Right.
and come back
Exactly.
and tell me how you did it. Now I want to hear
Right.
it because I
Right.
enjoy hearing the stories. Right.
Mm, absolutely.
Well, is
Well,
there anything else you want to add to all of this, Dr. Autumn?
ah, I mean, there's so much to say. So where do you begin? And yet we've filled this space so full.
Well,
Just
we're going to be doing other segments on this. So
yeah.
no worries at all, because as the juices flow and things come through, and there is a lot to say about it. And there's a lot of people who'd like to listen.
Yeah. Oh no, just for me, I just am just so grateful for you and others like you to be able to have this shared space, to be able to have shared understanding so we can bring that into this realm for
Mm-hmm.
everyone. And myself, how I'm trying to bring this through is in my personal relationships, I just always try to be as loving and kind as I possibly can and see that everyone is where they're at because that's what they need. On a professional level, I'm a clairvoyant, psychic, shaman, medium, medical intuitive, and a Chinese medicine doctor. And my whole desire is to help people step into, their greater strengths, to be able to be their best selves so that they can do the same in the world. And the
Yeah.
more we support and love each other, the closer we're going to come to that dream in full realization.
All right, everybody, take a nice inhale and exhale on that. Woo, doggy. That is powerful. Well, I will have your website in the description, but if you'd like to say what it is real quick.
Oh, absolutely. It's drautumnedwards.com. So DrAutumnEdwards.com. My practice is called Anahata Medicine because I practice medicine from the heart. So you can also go to anahatamedicine.com. Both places you can find.
Yes, and if you're ever in Sedona, Arizona, get an appointment on her table, please.
Right. Come
Yeah.
see me in person.
Yes, do that. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for tuning in to another segment of Keep It Spiritually Simple. I'm your host, Sandra McEllis. And again, I'm going to ask everyone, like, subscribe, share, leave us a comment, ask a question, because on the next segment, we may answer it for you. All righty. Thanks for tuning in. Say goodbye, Dr. Autumn. Bye, everybody.